Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at a product sent out to me by a company called PELONIS. So this is their 2500 watt oil filled radiator that they sent out for review. With winter having fully arrived and the UK getting battered by some awful weather, it's that time of the year where we're putting our central heating back on. We're trying to minimize costs because obviously UK prices for energy have been atrocious, and they decided that they would send me this to check out and review. So in terms of the setup, firstly, this is the easiest oil radiator I've ever put together. So I have had these in the past, and usually they come with the wheels separated and you have to sort of screw them on. With these, you simply just push some clips on and that's it, it's fully set up. It does come in a plain brown box, but that's to be expected with this kind of product. Now, in terms of the actual product itself, it has 3 power settings. So as I mentioned, it is 2500 watt. That is the highest, but it also has 1000 and 1500 watt settings as well. It also has a thermostat built in with quite a lot of adjustment. This is the most adjustment I've ever seen on one of these kind of radiators, where there's such a big difference between the minimum and the maximum that it's gonna help you further down the line, what we discuss a little bit later on. I've always made use of these types of radiators is not as a primary source or primary heat source, but as a supplementary heat source. So here you can see it does have 2500 watts max power usage. In terms of the actual unit itself, I've generally kept it in the 2500 watt, but I'll discuss that when it comes to the actual cost per unit and everything like that. So in terms of the unit itself, at the moment there is a Black Friday sale, so it is listed for £87. The general price for this unit as listed on Amazon is £125. If I do have any other links, I'll also link them in the description below as well. So in terms of cost per unit, this is taken from the UK average of 24p per kilowatt hour, I believe. That's the average right now. That's the max allowed, and that's what most companies will charge you. So the 3 settings are as follows. So you have 1000 watts, 1500 watts, and 2500 watts. And in terms of what it deems the usage would be, it'd be roughly around about 24p per hour, 37p per hour, and 61p per hour respectively. Now this isn't exact, and obviously this will fluctuate depending on the actual usage of the unit, but this is basically what it would use if it was left on full power in each of those modes without the thermostat kicking in. So that's the key part here. So the next thing I want to take a look at is what the 5-hour average for this type of device would be for all of those 3 power settings. So the 1000 watt setting would be £1.47, the 1500 watt option would be £2.20, and the 2500 watt option would be £3.68. So 5 hours is generally what is the sort of average what most people would make use of per day. Now that is if you leave it on full, so full power in each of those modes with no thermostat kicking in. Now the key thing about these types of radiators, and the reason why I say it's the supplementary one, is because you need to make use of that thermostat. So obviously £3.68, as I said, I mentioned I used it on the 2500 watt option, but what I do is I make use of it by utilizing the thermostat. So over the period I've had it, I've kind of figured out where I want it in order to keep the temperature to roughly between say 19 and 21 degrees in the room that I've got it in. Now for the most part I've made use of this in my home theater or my home cinema, but I have also made use of this in my hallway which doesn't have any radiators, and that's where this type of device comes in really handy, where you always have that cold spot in your house where you go between a room that has central heating and then you come into the hallway or some other room which doesn't have any radiators, and that is sucking away all the warmth from your home. Now what I did was I just placed this at the bottom of the stairs, so by my front door. So anytime the front door is opened, obviously it brings in a lot of cold draft, and I made use of this to heat that air back up. I made use of the thermostat to keep the hallway to roughly around about 20 degrees or just below, so between 19 and 20 degrees, and I made use of that only during the times when I'm actually awake. So I didn't turn this on overnight because it's pointless having this type of heating in that area overnight. If you wanted to, you could do, but what that does is by having it at a lower setting, it means that even though in theory this should be £3.68 per day or 5 hours, that 5 hours is actually stretched over a much longer period. So that cost per day is actually more like a full day rather than just what you would see here, which is a 5 our cost. In terms of the unit itself, this particular one comes in black, which is perfect for my home theater because obviously I want everything blacked out. I don't want anything standing out and being bright. I'm not a fan of the sort of reflective metal because as you'll see in some of the images, it does gather dust quite easily because of that finish, but the positive side of that is it does wipe clean a lot easier as well compared to a matte surface, which would be harder to clean. In terms of the unit itself, it does just blend in, so very plain. It has a lot of fins, so it allows the air to go through those fins, which is actually better for heat dissipation. And also because it is an oil filled radiator, it means that it holds the heat for a long time even when the unit is switched off. So this isn't like a fan radiator where it only heats up while it's on. Even when this cuts out and the power isn't being utilized, the oil is still warm, so it's still giving off heat. The other thing about this is it is completely silent. So for those of you who want a silent option and you do want to make use of it either in a child's room or maybe overnight or somewhere where noise is a issue for you, then that's where this would come into its own and can be utilized. Overall, during the time I've made use of this, I found it to be very reliable in terms of keeping areas warm and also just allowing you the option of not having to make use of central heating because as we all know, the energy costs in the UK are just crazy. As always, I'm going to have links for the product in the description below. I will try and get some other links as well, but the main primary one that I have is for Amazon. If I can find any codes, I will also add them in the description for you as well. If you do have any questions, drop them in the comment section below. I'll do my best to answer them as I always do. If you haven't already done so, please do subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any future videos, and I'd really appreciate if you can also give this video a thumbs up. And until the next one, thanks very much for watching.